Welcome once again to Yes, How Can I Help? With me, Mark Watson. In this adorable YouTube series, I take on questions from all comers and on all subjects not related directly to myself, with a few exceptions. This is an attempt to challenge ChatGPT and the other AIs whose seemingly unbounded knowledge is an existential threat to us as humans, as thinkers. Please do keep the questions coming in. Most of the questions in this episode were harvested from the first two episodes, from the comments here and Instagram and others. So do post your questions here as comments, or you can continue to tweet them, of course. Or if you ever catch us on one of these walks, the dream is that someone does it. If you ever see a man with a jumper, I've decided always to wear a jumper for this series, even though it's now approaching midsummer and it's not a very good decision. Anyway, if you ever see us, Alex, the familiar figure of Alex, train, wielding a camera and a man advancing towards him. Someone said something like, this is like walking through a park with someone in need of care. I don't know whether they're referring to me or to Alex, but I can assure you we're both perfectly all right. Does this look like someone having a midlife crisis, desperately trying to court the favour of a new audience? Or does it seem like someone who is, as I say, perfectly all right? This time we've not started in a park. We're hoping a park will sort of break out if we walk up and down this, through this quite unpromising neighbourhood. So I'm going to clear up, as I say, questions that emerged from the past two episodes, and I'll also maybe read out a couple of other people's answers, because there's been some sort of debate within the comments. All of this is very much encouraged. So, who decided to mix eggs, milk and wheat to make cake? Who woke up one day and decided, this is what I'm going to do? Utterly baffled as to how these things come about. It was God, as with a lot of these things. He had some time on his hands, having created stuff like cows, which in turn made milk, and obviously it's quite amusing to him that he gave cows the facility of providing milk. There was no reason why that should have been the case. And he also let goats make milk, and he gave it to a few. Anyway, the same with eggs. He having done the sort of initial groundwork, God then started just sort of playing around with some things. Made a cake. It was a lemon drizzle, that's why it's generally regarded as the finest of cakes. It's the original cake. Lemons again was something God just came up with and thought, this is a bit sharp really, but you can put them in something. He then passed his wisdom in much the same way as God. Watch that, Alex. In much the same way as God passed a lot of wisdom on to humanity, and gradually mortals started to experiment with cakes. The result? The Bake Off, the Cake Wars in America, and lots of other things like that. I'm glad we cleared that up. You might have remembered some controversy about foxes and whether we should be accommodating urban foxes or trying to be friends with them or having a sharp word with them. This person said, it's an enormous comment, but the gist of it is foxes do not hunt cats or dogs for food. That is propaganda spread to rile up pet owners. Vulnerable urban foxes actually need every safe space we can offer them. So if you have a garden, you can help them by leaving a corner of your garden wild and by feeding them a supplementary meal of dog food. So there you go. This person suggests that we should be going the extra mile actually to be friends with foxes. Why don't keyboards have a black key for every white key? It'd be too long. Wouldn't fit in rooms. Again, this is a comment rather than a question. The question of casseroles v pie, or what is a pie, speaks deeply to me. It's a hill I'm willing to fight over and die upon. A pie is not a casserole in a ceramic container with a pastry hat. A pie has pastry on all sides. A pie can be lifted out of the receptacle it was cooked in and placed on a plate, and here it goes into capital letters, not a piece of wood or slate or an oyster shell or whatever else. So that gravy or custard for a fruit-based pie can be poured over without it running off the edge. Thank you for joining me on my What is a Pie presentation. I would say that I agree with pretty much everything Jim has said there. Do you think Phil and Rita's relationship was able to survive long term after his unique experience in Groundhog Day? They certainly must have. They must have discussed it. This is the thing. You sort of, when a film ends in a sort of what appears to be a happily ever after way, unless there is a sequel, you are left wondering about these things. But for a start, I know that and it's a few years since I saw the film and actually the musical by my friend Tim Minchin, based upon the film. I know that he comes out of it a changed man. He's learned the lesson of the endlessly cycling day, or the lessons to do with changing his character and stuff. But still, I would have thought you'd be terrified it was going to happen again at some point. You'd certainly never be able to hear that song on the radio without thinking, shit, here we go again. But even regardless of that, you'd be waking up and checking every day whether you had succeeded in moving on a day, or whether you were back in Groundhog Day. And it would be then, it not only would be, and when Groundhog Day came around again, like the following year, February the 2nd, you'd be very paranoid it was going to happen again. And every time someone said, that's like Groundhog Day, isn't it? You'd say, well, that's not funny actually, because I was that guy. I was the actual person in Groundhog Day, so I can tell you exactly what it was like.
What is that?
Oh, I just don't know. We're passing a sort of like an urban garden, I think you would call this. This is exactly the sort of place where you might provide a safe space for a fox, if we are to believe the person that left the comment. Anyway, yeah, I think the trauma of his Groundhog Day experience would weigh upon Phil, and as a result, Rita she'd have to make allowances for that, and communication would be key, as is the case in all relationships, I suppose. There's some chat about that thing about someone asked why their duvet appears to have moved around. I facetiously said it was because they actually wake up in a different bed every morning of their life. Someone else has counted that they're staying still, but the earth is rotating, and so that's why the duvet moves. The move. Why are sports so difficult? It's because, it's because sports depend on some people being really good, but almost everyone being shit. Like if you went onto a golf course and everyone just whacked the ball straight in the hole, no, it wouldn't be very exciting. Or if everyone was really, really good at badminton. Well, if everyone was good enough at badminton, it'd be almost impossible to finish a game because the silly little friend, the shuttlecock, that's the word, you'd never be able to get it down. But you might, if you're sort of sad about the fact that sports are too difficult, there goes a flag, an England flag on a car. That's because there's a sporting tournament going on right now, football tournament, and sure enough, if you watch the football, any of it, you'll see that it does look, as a bin lorry, quite difficult. As I say, it might comfort you to think about the fact that partly sports are difficult because, and I'm saying it as a sports fan, they're kind of quite stupid. Like in tennis, there's no reason why we as a society should value the fact that someone can hit the ball not just very hard, but to a very specific bit of an arbitrarily marked area, and or cricket again, it's like how many times can you hit this thing? But if the thing hits your knee, you're done for. But also if someone catches you hitting, all these are just things we came up with to pass the time. There's no, apart from sports like, I suppose, running or fighting, boxing as they call it, or jumping, sports which have an obvious evolutionary purpose, most sports are just nonsense, really. So that's the real answer. Sports are difficult because we made them difficult because we can only amuse ourselves by coming up with peculiar constructs and ways of filling what is essentially the void. By the void, I mean, yeah. Well, the search for meaning is anyway. In other news, what is the difference between ham, pork, and spam? Different pigs. I'm sorry, this is sensitive content for some people. But when a pig is about to be killed for food, they ask it what sort of meat it would like, how it would like to be marketed. This is a biggie. What single piece of media would you use to explain humanity to an alien race? This, of course, is extremely difficult if we take what piece of media to mean everything across the arts, film, TV, music even, because so many films or shows, or how many time, Alex?
2 minutes.
So many of these things demonstrate at least some aspects of the human experience, and we can all think of films which, and to a lesser extent, episodes of No More Jockeys, which pretty much showcase all aspects of the human experience. But one thing, to to let an alien know what we're about, it's an extraordinarily difficult question, and that's why you'll understand if I just stick my neck out and say the film Dude, Where's My Car? That's pure gut feeling, that's vibes. I can't really, I just think that's where you'd start with an alien. Why don't Americans eat beans on toast? I believe you're right that they don't. There are a lot of dietary differences between us and the Americans, and on Twitter, nearly every day you can see someone saying, "Can you believe the Americans don't have cattle?" And then the American will say, why do you all like eat leeks or something? And it just rattles on like that, and eventually they start arguing over the pronunciation of the word aluminum or aluminium. I think the Americans don't eat baked beans because, or not on toast at least, because they just have so many of their own food traditions. But it might be that there are laws banning it. American states all have different laws, of course, and it might be that, and a lot of them are based on really weird things that happened in the 19th century. So it could be that there was a terrible bean incident. Was Adam really the first man? Yes, it's in the Bible. If you had to let one wild animal sleep in your bed for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Pugs were royal bed warmers. That was their job.
Pug dogs?
Yeah.
How long?
16 seconds.
16 seconds? Oh God. Turtle then, because they don't move around too much in bed. Should the toilet roll be on? It's the usual question. It doesn't matter. It's never mattered how you put the toilet roll, just have some. Why did Schrödinger have such a hate for cats? A cat killed his uncle. If Mr. Blobby
That's
could...
your time.
I know. If Mr... Well, I won't be able to answer this, but the question was going to be, if Mr. Blobby could speak with a regular voice, what accent would he have? We'll never know. Thank you for watching. Keep your questions coming. Keep subscribing and approving in other ways. Bye. That's why magnesium reacts the way it does. Please like and subscribe. Having said I would have done the same.